Bush poetry, long-distance swimming and soap making don't appear to have much in common. But in outback New South Wales, each has proved invaluable in helping graziers deal with the pressures of isolated rural life. Broken Hill reporter Bill Ormond has the story and a warning. It mentions suicide.
The dry, red earth of outback New South Wales presents plenty of challenges. Scorching temperatures and rolling dust storms can test the toughest of graziers. The isolation of properties like Gum Park, northwest of Broken Hill, adds to the pressure. Weave in drought and the weight of more than 100 years of family history, and it was almost too much for Wes Herring in 2016.
About 400 yards from where we sit is where I almost ended my life with a 150 grain 30-30 projectile.
For Wes, the daily grind had ground him down.
We were shearing, I was getting a real pizzling, and I just, with sheep everywhere and nothing was going to plan, and it was just all getting too hard. I had the bank on me back. And some other, outside pressures of telling me I'm doing shit wrong and stuff, and I just went, you know what, I'm over this. Sat in the wheel well of the motorbike and put the rifle under my chin.
A recent report showed almost half of farmers surveyed had thoughts of self-harm or suicide, while another showed between 2009 and 2018, 370 farmer suicides were reported. For Wes Herring, coming back to the site of where it could have ended is an odd feeling.
I couldn't tell you what the feeling is that you have when you stand here. It's not guilt. It's not pleasure, as much as I like looking at the country. I don't know what it is.
Wes would have left behind a loving wife and young son.
But I'm not ashamed to bring people here and say this is where it almost ended.
Years of therapy and support from family and friends helped Wes through dark periods, but it was writing poetry which empowered him the most.
How could a man who has it all be so unhappy and feel so small?
Wes has shared his poetry through social media as a way of breaking the stigma associated with mental health.
Finding that there was no shame in it, and if I could help one person, and I said that day, man I've become no longer suits all. I no longer stand bulletproof and tall. I've made it known.
While there's been plenty of positive feedback, Wes has received pushback too.
My demons have been shone under the light. I've made it public, my life's living fight. Few people withdrew out of my life because the stigma of being associated with somebody with a mental illness did not sit well in their social circles. I'm seen as ungrateful.
But it hasn't deterred Wes, who's on a mission to bring awareness to the wider public about the pressures of life on the land.
Black Dog Blues. I hope these words can save just one. I'll keep posting my words, my work's never done.
Meanwhile, on a cool and cloudy morning, more than 200 kilometres west of Wes's place, one of Wes's biggest supporters prepares to take a dip. Grazier Brendan Cullen manages Carr Station, which backs onto Lake Speculation, one of 9 in the man-made Menindee Lake system. Brendan battled blue-green algae when he began swimming at the lakes a number of years ago, when only Copey Hollow had water. Since then, the lakes have filled, and he's successfully swum the English Channel twice.
If you're having a mundane week or a day or whatever it may be, the one thing that's going to keep pulling you out of the gutter is a good hard slog, either in the pool or out in the lakes. I mean, the environment that we're in at the moment is fairly special, and lucky to have it on our doorstep, and it's a privilege to swim in it.
And while the water here can drop to as low as 12 degrees during winter, it doesn't stop him.
The freedom, swimming, your mind is just thinking about how you're actually swimming, putting one arm in front of the other. It takes you away from your everyday life skills, working, on the property.
Not only did Brendan help Wes through tough times, he's supporting another friend in former police officer Ben Clavell.
Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2019, and which led to me not being able to work anymore. And I was in the police for over 20 years, and that was a huge hit, as you can imagine.
Go, Pete! Come on, Pete! Come on, Pete!
The pair swam the English Channel together last year, and Ben has been working at Cars Station since 2019.
He could see that I was struggling, and he invited me out to Cars to be in nature and to, just to spend some time without the noise of life.
We have to do this once a week, twice a week.
At least.
Don't we?
Brendan has battled his own demons. 4 dry years from 2017 to 2021 with well below average rainfall took a toll on his mental health.
I didn't realise at the time that I was in a depressed state, but I was diagnosed clinically with depression.
He says the stress caused by the longevity of the last drought crept up on him. His diagnosis was a shock, but it allowed him to take a step back and assess where his life was heading.
For years I probably spent half my life looking behind me instead of looking in front of me, and a lot of thoughts you were building up, and I had no idea how to get rid of them. And to be truthful, I think I was exhausted, both through the drought, what was going on in my head, and in the end, it wasn't uncommon when I'd go to Broken Hill and someone would say, geez, you look tired, you look exhausted.
Swimming is his release, and Brendan believes it's critical to find a passion outside of work.
I created a toolbox for myself, and from that point on, I've carried that around with me today. And if I escalate in any areas that I feel that might be pushing me down an ordinary path, I keep reverting back to that toolbox.
While agriculture is a male-dominated industry and men are far more likely to take their own lives, there are thousands of rural women across the country who struggle with their mental health. With the El Niño weather pattern in effect and warmer weather and less frequent rain predicted, many can't help but be stressed about what lies ahead.
Would help with level ground.
While Brendan uses a mental toolbox, Britt Anderson's tools are located in her workshop, crafting soaps and candles of all shapes and sizes.
This is where everything happens, from making to beveling and stamping, boxing, posting, packaging up, some work on the computer. Everything happens in this room.
It began out of practicality, with Britt unable to use mass-produced soaps due to the chemicals in them. It's since become her release from the stresses of station life.
It doesn't rely on anybody else. It doesn't rely on the weather. It doesn't rely on us being in drought or out of drought.
Britt lives on Simbrick Vale Station, north of Mudawinji National Park in western New South Wales. The rocky and remote property is at least 45 minutes to the nearest neighbour. She and her husband Michael have been living here since 2008. The Anderson family has been running stock here for more than a century. During the most recent drought, they were forced to truck their sheep to South Australia, with Mick moving down to Victor Harbour to look after their stock on adjustment. And what was supposed to be temporary ended up testing Britt to her limits.
So he was at the farm and I was here with the girls because there was still about 1,000 head here, and thinking that he'd be only away for a few months, and it ended up being 2.5 years.
The isolation of being hours from town and having to run the station on her own was a challenge compounded when just 40 millimetres of rain fell over 18 months.
It's a pretty hard place to be by yourself without that, without your life partner there with you, and the same for him.
Recent rainfall has brought greenery back, but despite a wet El Niño in some parts of the far west, low sheep and goat prices are a concern.
It feels pretty apprehensive on the agriculture side of things because there aren't a lot of options available at the moment besides sale yards and straight over the hooks. So you're really completely up to the price gods, to be honest. And the massive drop has been a huge impact on us.
Brit's distraction therapy, as she calls it, not only provides her a release, but has grown as a business to where she's flying soap all over the country. Every Tuesday, the mail plane arrives with parcels before leaving with batches of soap. And while the financial side of the business is a bonus, it's the mental benefits which keep Brit in the workshop.
Thank you very much. It can turn the day around. You know, when you've been dragging bogged sheep out of a dam that's about to go dry, and then you walk into that soap studio and there's the beautiful smells and the pretty soaps and all the different colours.
Without it, she wouldn't be able to cope.
I don't know if I could be out here without that creative outlet. I need to be able to express myself. So, and that is just a perfect way of doing it.
Brit, Wes and Brendan have all found an outlet which allows them to cope through tough times. They hope by sharing their stories, it encourages more people to pick up a new hobby and speak up when they're struggling.
And if someone can relate to it and go, you know what, I'm not on my own. Things aren't that bad, you know, then it may help someone else cope with a similar situation.
And I couldn't stress hard enough and long enough about trying to find something different in your life that you can help, you know, fill your bucket at the end of the day. It's not work related.